Before we get started with the show, I wanted to talk to you about revising letters of intent for Phase 2. And in talking to Madeline Acquilano, the Luxe Pharmacist, she talked about revising them and how over the weekend she did that revision, but then she worked with her preceptor to tighten them up and had that other person really helping out. And I've always struggled to put an analogy together as to why you would want someone to help you with a letter of intent. And I think I finally got it. So you can drive a car. That's a given. And there are race car drivers, and this match thing, especially Phase 2, is going to be a race. Now, you're comfortable driving your car at whatever speeds that you drive, whether, it be 40, 50, 60, even 80 miles an hour. But what we're talking about is a race. And when you talk about Daytona and Indy 500, everyone thinks about the speed at which you have to go. And stock cars run around 200 miles an hour. Indy 5 cars run around 205 miles an hour. But this is the big difference. So in NASCAR, you make 4 left turns and you experience up to 2 times the force of gravity. This Phase 2 is not like that. That is Phase 1, where it's uncomfortable, but you're, kind of bouncing around. You make it to the end of the race. Having someone there that's a professional driver would obviously help you, as I'm a professional writer. Makes it a lot easier. This is like a Formula One race. And the difference between a Formula One race and a NASCAR race is that in that NASCAR race, you're going to have up to 2 times the force of gravity. But in a Formula One race, like the Indy 500, you are talking about up to 5 times the force of gravity, and you are making left and right turns. You are getting bounced around in this 96 hours. And when I was like, well, how do I explain to people what it's like? That's what it's like. That's why you need someone that's a race car driver. What you want to do is be the person that's in charge of the team. Okay, so your family, the APPE preceptors, me, whoever it is that you bring on your team, you're in charge of the team. You decide where to race. You decide where to go. But I assure you, you do not want to go and get in that car at 205 miles an hour, 5 Gs, having never done it before. And so when I talk about helping people with their LOIs, they're like, okay, well, I'm not the best writer. It'd be nice to have a little polish and this and that. That's not what it is. It's that you may not be able to produce what you need, which is a top 10% letter, in 96 hours. And that's something that I definitely can help you do. And I can not only help you do it, but I can help you do it in such a way that that letter becomes the template, your unique template, not the one from UCSF, not the one from ACCP, not the one that's begins with, I want to express my sincere interest. It was nice to meet your residents at ASHP. Because in this case, you're not going to be able to say it was nice to meet your residents at ASHP because you probably didn't. These aren't your choices. These are, it was nice to look you up on the match. You can't say that. So what I want to do is I want to let you know that on Friday, the 13th, I will be around all day and to some extent on Saturday morning. If you want to work with me, you can go to my residencyhelp.com and see if that's going to be something you want to do. But email me your letter at tonythepharmacist@gmail.com. That's tonythepharmacist@gmail.com. And I will tell you whether or not it's worth it for me to help you. It's $75 if I do help you. I'll tell you it up front. But if I see that your letter is excellent and that it has little to do with your letter, then you may not need my help. Now, if you're not emotionally able to put the letter together, then yes, you'll need my help. And that may happen. We talk about, the emotional strain of not matching after so many years of putting all the effort in before it in this episode. But that would be something I would tell you up front. Your letter is fine. It's not your letter that was the issue. Maybe it was your interviewing. Maybe it was just picking some sites that had 200, 300 applications. You probably don't need my help. However, if you send me a letter of intent and I see significant matching to the ACCP or UCSF letter, I want to express my deep interest. It was great to meet your residents. And then there are a number of phrases that I see over and over again where the bulk of the letter comes from those templates. That means that the RPDs, when they were looking at your letters during phase 1, were marking your letters as generic. And those extra points that you didn't get could have been the difference between you getting the residency and not getting the residency. And so that situation I can definitely help. I can definitely make one of those generic letters into a unique letter that articulates, one, who you are and how you're qualified, and two, what it is about the program that you're looking at. And I can do that within that weekend time frame. So again, before we start with the show, I just want to put these two things in context. One, you're going to go out and have to drive in the Indy 500 of pharmacy with the emotional state that you're in from getting the news that you didn't match. And two, you have to race and get in the top 10% if you're going to get an interview, because only 1 in 10 make it to the interview portion. The rest, unfortunately, don't. So again, I'll be there all Friday. My phase 2 book is available for free on that Friday. Crushing the phase 2 pharmacy residency match, proven tactics to earn a clinical pharmacist training position. And I know the last thing you want to do is read a book on the weekend where you've got to get things done. But I assure you, the advice that I give you in there, and it's a quick read, even if you just scan it, will save you a ton of work and a ton of heartache and make your weekend a heck of a lot easier. So again, I'm here to support you, and I've got this great story from Madeline Acquilano, who's the Luxe Pharmacist, and is going to kind of give you her best tips for getting through phase 2, not just the component that, okay, I have to do this thing by Tuesday, but also talking about kind of the emotional part of it, and also talking about how it affects relationships. Because when my wife and I went into the scramble, it was a tremendous, tremendous stressor, and I would have loved to have had somebody on the outside that could have helped and advised us as we went through it. So without further ado, let's get on with the show. Hey, welcome to the Pharmacy Residency Podcast, a member of the Pharmacy Podcast Network. I know phase 2 is coming up, and we don't want you to be the forgotten 2600, and I've got someone else from the Pharmacy Podcast Network, Madeline Acquilano, who is the Luxe Pharmacist, and she was really courageous in a number of ways. First of all, last year she posted that she did not match, and we'll talk about how much support she got there. But she also did end up matching in phase 2. One of only 2% of pharmacy students that graduate each year do this. The odds are 1 in 13, I think, in phase 2. So it's a tremendous accomplishment, very hard to do. So let's welcome her to the Pharmacy Residency Podcast.
Hi, thank you.
Okay, well, let's first get a little bit of background. You are now working as a resident. Where and what is it that you kind of do day to day, or what would you like people to know about you first?
Yeah, so I am originally from New Hampshire, and then I ended up actually going to school in Boston at MCPHS University. And I kind of knew the entire time that I was in school that I wanted to do a residency. So we can obviously talk about the match in phase 2 and all of that. But obviously, going through school the entire time and wanting to do a residency so badly. Obviously, I was devastated. So every single day that, I can go into work and call myself a resident this year, I've just been so thankful for. So I do a lot day to day. My residency is in Connecticut, so it's really close to my boyfriend's family, and it is at St. Vincent's Medical Center. And right now I'm actually on my critical care 2 rotation. So we have a lot of, it's mainly an inpatient residency. So kind of like your standard PG-by-1 residency. And we rotate through a ton of different areas within the inpatient setting. But I've really, really, really enjoyed the critical care setting. It's very, very demanding. You could get a code 99 called at any time, which is a code blue cardiac arrest code. It's happened actually several times this week. This morning, thankfully, it was a false alarm. But it kind of is different every single day. So I went into rotation this morning. I rounded with the ICU team, caught up with my preceptor. I had a leadership meeting with our pharmacy director. So leadership is actually a longitudinal rotation of mine. And then I had another meeting with my project preceptor, which is a longitudinal rotation as well. So we do the standard year-long research project. So it really is just kind of like whatever that day has in store for you. But it's been really, really hard, but also really rewarding. And, again, I'm just so thankful to be in the position that I am.
Well, let's start and kind of rewind to the match itself and what your thinking was with phase 1. I remember from your podcast episode that you applied to 4 residencies, and the average person applies to around 12. So I feel like you were confident with your recommendations. You were confident with what you had done. What advice? What do you feel about that tactic when you did it, and then what advice do you give to people now regarding, first of all, the number of applications?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I was confident and I did feel really good about everything that I had accomplished in pharmacy school and that I was a really strong candidate. But I do feel like I was a little picky. I think I definitely narrowed it down to places that I thought I would absolutely be in love with, and kind of didn't really give any thought to programs that, could potentially be in that middle ground that maybe I didn't fall in love with them on paper, but maybe I would really love them if I visited there and got to meet everyone. So I'm definitely a believer that 12 is not an outrageous number by any means. I think it's better to keep your options open than to kind of limit it like I did, because, for example, the program I'm at right now, I didn't even look at in phase 1. I was like, oh, that's a little too far from my house next, which no, it's not. I do the drive every single morning and on my way home from work, and it truly is not that bad. And again, I'm so thankful that I am a resident. So, and plus, I think that places just can have so much to offer that they don't necessarily have on their website or on paper. So, huge believer of applying to more places than you think you're absolutely going to love, and just kind of seeing what is out there.
Now, I want to actually say the 4 wasn't unreasonable, because when you look at the match statistics, only 150 of the people that didn't match, or 150 people that did match, didn't match to their 1, 2, 3, or 4. So if that was your 1, 2, 3, and 4, you're really only talking about the first 96 or 97%. So yes, that makes sense. But you're right. Maybe, saying, okay, well, this would be ideal, and then this will become ideal. So let's kind of move into the position you did match with. We'll talk about the actual phase 2 day as a kind of slow motion thing, and we'll compare our own notes. But tell me a little bit about where you did end up matching and how that fit what you were looking for. And maybe that wasn't apparent at first, but now it certainly is, it seems like.
When you're in those areas that are underserved and, have patients that don't have a lot of healthcare or don't have great follow-up, you are a very busy hospital. We have a lot of patients all the time, and I get to see a lot of cool things, and we get to care for, a population that really needs us. And especially my hospital now is a Catholic hospital. So, we have so many good programs for those patients that do not have insurance. And we have so many, different charity programs and things for them. So it's really honestly an honor to be able to serve that population. And it isn't something that I necessarily thought of that way at first. So I also wouldn't, exclude a place that way. I've always felt safe at work. I truly, truly do love the population that I get to serve working in kind of an inner city hospital. So I do love that aspect of it. Again, I do the drive every single day and it's really not that bad. So it's kind of like humbling yourself from the beginning and thinking, what are you willing to do to be a resident next year? And just kind of keeping a more broad mind, I guess.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about phase two and that day. Let me start with
Mm-hmm.
mine, so I don't want to put you on the spot first. I'd never want to
Okay.
ask someone what they've gone through before I've gone through it. So my wife
Mm-hmm.
and I, this is back when they had the scramble rather than match, and we were newlyweds. I thought that I just bought a house in Baltimore. I thought we were going to live there for a couple of years, then maybe figure out maybe we're going to move to her hometown in Iowa, maybe not. A couple of years down the road, and I
Mm-hmm.
had a thriving real estate business. She made $7,000 as a technician, while she was in school. But she applied to 4 residency programs, and come to find out that each residency program had over 200 applicants. So
Oh my
almost the
God.
exact same situation. And there we are on
Yeah.
match day, and she doesn't match. And I'm not criticizing her, like it was just ridiculous, the odds. And we all of a sudden are looking to scramble just as you were.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 spots were open in Iowa City, community spots. And I think I said it or she said it. I don't remember who said it. It was just nightmare in terms of just emotional trauma. And I was like, well, we could move to Iowa. She's like, I didn't even know that was an option. I was like, it wasn't an option until 5 minutes ago when this just
Yeah,
happened.
now it's an option.
Yeah, now it's an option. Now it's on the table. So that completely changed the direction of our life. And I never would have the wonderful job that I have now if I didn't make the move then, if I didn't get my teaching certificate from there. And everything worked out for me, but I had to give up everything what I thought I was giving up everything at the time. And I ended up coming out on the great end of it. Now, tell me your story, because I think your story was where your boyfriend, it all worked out for him, and then all
Yep.
of a sudden things are in chaos for you. So tell me a little bit about that story and how it all just ended up working out.
Yeah. So we actually were told by our preceptors that, we could spend the morning at home, open our emails, and then kind of like make our way in, which I didn't even think I would need. Again, I was
Yeah.
kind of like, confident and just like excited. And it was funny because people around me were like, okay, well, what if you don't match and blah, blah, blah. And, well, a lot of great candidates don't match. It was like everyone else was psyching me up to kind of not match. And I was like, yeah, okay. So my boyfriend, was a great student too, but he was kind of someone who always like did his own thing. He didn't like the clubs, he wasn't super, super involved. He always had really good internships. But he wasn't, the president of this and vice president of that by any means. So for some reason, we both were ready for him not to match, but
I
definitely not
love
ready
it.
for me not to match. So he opened his email first, and it was great news. We were both super, super excited. And then I go to open mine, and I'm just like staring at my phone. And I'm like, this doesn't look like his email. This looks wrong. Like what is going on? I think I literally read it like 3 different times.
I'm not laughing
And
at
if
you.
you
I'm just laughing.
no, I know. But if anyone wants like a really quick answer, you could blur your eyes. You could totally black out. If you do not see really big, bold blue letters, it's not a good thing. And I just remember reading all these like little like black plain normal text, and I was like, oh God. So I read it like 3 different times, and then I think I just had this look of like horror or shock or something on my face. And my boyfriend's face was hysterical because he was so like panicked, like he had no idea what to say, what to do. Like he had just matched while his girlfriend, who worked like 4 years, like blood, sweat, and tears for matching, like didn't. And it was just like this nightmare opposite situation. And I literally spent the entire day crying. Like, I'm not gonna lie to anyone about that. I sulked in my tears for the entire day. Yeah, like the entire day. And I just was devastated, like absolutely devastated.
Let me stop you there because let's talk about that emotional component, because this is the thing that people are going to have to get through because they have 96 hours till it opens again on St. Patrick's Day. But first of all, on the guy side, I know what was going on with him. He's like, I want to fix this, but I don't know how to fix this. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I can fix this. And,
Yeah.
it was one of those, like, is this the time where I'm supposed to just listen? I'm supposed to hold her. I'm supposed to go away. What am I supposed to do? And she can't tell me. She certainly can't. But I think there were
Funny.
tears. I think there were at least some
Yeah.
tears. So that's to be expected. There's going to be an emotional reaction. So tell me,
Oh,
how long did
absolutely.
you take to get yourself together? Because did you actually go into your APPE after that?
Oh, no, no, no. I was actually on a rotation that my boyfriend had had earlier in the year. So he already had that preceptor's number and he texted her and, let her know what was going on. And she was like, oh, no, just stay home. Like, probably didn't want to deal with that situation. It was like, no, please don't bring your sorrows into hospital today. So I did end up staying home. I did cry and sulk all day, but I will say I pulled myself together. I went out to dinner, kind of like a therapeutic dinner, to be honest, with one of our good friends. We got like pizza and Caesar salad, which I was craving, and margaritas, and I felt a lot better. But by that time, I had already posted to my Instagram, which I was deathly afraid of at first. But that is honestly one of the things that made me feel a lot better, probably the most better out of anything. Just all like the love and support and mutual feelings that were pouring in was really, really incredible, to be honest.
All right, so I'm going to stop the first episode there because I think that it's good to, that was good introduction, and we're going to have the second episode, which is really the nuts and bolts of what to do on March 13th this year, Friday the 13th, match day, if you don't match. And it's going to begin with something that may seem counterintuitive, but one of the best things I think you can do, which is to actually post that you have not matched. And you will be amazed at the support you get. So in the second episode, we'll begin with Madeline talking about that kind of support. Hey, thanks again for listening to the Pharmacy Residency Podcast. I do encourage you to go to residencyhelp.com, get on the mailing list. I'll send you out an email every Friday during residency season, but then afterwards, I'll still have a number of episodes on helping you get through residency itself. And then if you're somebody that's looking at residency in the future, I'll also have content for that as well. If you have a question, I'm pretty good about getting back to you. And if I don't have an answer, I will know someone that does. So thanks again for listening to the Pharmacy Residency Podcast. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, please do rate and review. It really matters in terms of our ability to reach more people. Thanks again.